我想待一人，回云深不知处。你把我当成什么人？我毕生知己。
Hi folks, welcome to day 22. Wow, 22. I'm going to just let you log in. I think I'm just a minute or two early. So good morning Louise and Jane, and to those of you who have logged in but don't use the chat, good morning, welcome. I know that quite a few people do use the catch-up service, so they'll be doing this class later on today when it fits in with their lives, and being half term, there's quite a few people who are going to be got a different week this week with their children about, so no doubt they'll do this a bit later. So for those of you who do use the chat, or indeed haven't used the chat yet but maybe might have a question to ask, please, whilst I'm just talking in this part of today's session, if you have got any questions to date about anything with regards to the movements, or you're slightly unsure, so now's the time to sort of pop a question in. You can do that in the next sort of couple of minutes if you want to. I'll try and keep an eye on it. The live chat seems to be working well. Don't forget, live chat is available to everybody there. There's a little, if you can't see it, there's a little arrow in the corner of your player screen. Just tap on the arrow and the live chat box will open up. So if you if you do have any questions, then please do ask away if there's anything that I can help with. So moving on. How was your self-guided practice these past couple of days? I hope you managed to do it. I know life can sort of throw its curveballs at us and something happens, and you know, sometimes it gets to the point where, for instance, I know for a fact that this weekend a few of you had some vaccinations, for instance, and the vaccinations and that whole process sort of, took it out of you. And you're quite right to listen to your body. You're quite right to think, do you know what, I'm just too tired now, or because of these circumstances. So you can always use the visual meditation in that case to do your practice. Remember I said on Friday that it's not there to replace a constant practice, but where you need it to replace a day here, a day there, then absolutely use it. The other things as well with Qigong is sometimes it's when we least feel like doing anything at all is probably the time that you actually need to do something. It's that time where you just think, oh, I just can't be bothered, or I'm too tired, or I'm in too much pain, or another excuse comes up, and we'll leave it. Remember, each time we say that, we're giving ourselves permission to put it off again the next day and the next day, and as soon as you've missed 1 or 2 days, then that excuse is made, and then you sort of can think to yourself, well, what's the point? I've missed a few days now. Remember how you feel when you do your Qigong, and remember that you don't have to come to class thinking, I've got to do an hour here. Just start doing something for a few minutes. Have the intention of only doing it for a few minutes, and you'll be quite surprised at how much more you end up doing. So at those times when you feel that you least want to do it are probably the times that you should be doing it. And it also goes for the times where you think, I'm feeling great. I don't need Qigong today. I'm doing well. Continue doing your Qigong. Continue building your foundation of your wax and your wick. You want that candle to burn brightly. I have had lots of students over the years who have come to Qigong for the purpose of dealing with something specific. They've heard that Qigong might be good for whatever it may be, and let's say stress and anxiety. And they'll come to do Qigong, and they'll really commit to Qigong for a good 6 months, maybe a year, maybe even a couple of years. Maybe it's 3 months, and they start feeling really good about themselves again. And then I don't see them. It's just like they've gone off, disappeared. And then 6 months goes past or so, and I'll get an email or a phone call saying, or a text saying, Dennis, I'm feeling really bad again. Can I come back to class again? Of course. And they'll come back to class, and I'll have this same chat with them, and I'll say, look, remember what got you to the place where you wanted to be? And more often than not, the answer is, well, Qigong was the fundamental practice that got me in that place of being less stressed and anxious. But if we go back to our old world, as it were, if we go back to the old habits, those habit energies will very, very quickly take root again. And then we fall back into those old patterns. So it's really important to understand that we practice Qigong when we don't really feel like practicing it, and we practice Qigong when we feel that we don't need it anymore. We absolutely have to practice it all the time, just a little bit here and there. The ideal time really is about 20 minutes a day. If you can top that up, occasionally once a week to do an hour or so, all the better. But 20 minutes a day is really sort of the ideal time when your body, within that 20-minute practice period, your body starts to calm and to relax and to open up. And it's any point after that 20 minutes that starts is the Goldilocks point. So Just bear that in mind. So it looks like quite a few have joined the class now, and just in case you were a little bit late coming into class, I would just mention that if you wanted to, for me to answer any of your questions before we actually start today's class, please just pop them into the chat box now if you've got anything regarding your practice that I can help you with. We are going to have a chance towards the end of the session too. So do your practice. Always do your practice. Just like you would shower, just like you would have a glass of water, you know, it's something that we do, and remind yourself how you feel once you've practiced. Each time you do a practice, just check in, how do I feel? And as we've said before, I feel calm, I feel relaxed, I feel buzzy, I feel alive. Remember that feeling. Why wouldn't we want to feel like that? So let me just refresh my page just to make sure that it is all working. Okay. So today's class, we're going to first do the warm-ups in this session, and the warm-ups that we've learnt to date, and then we're going to the Heavenly Archer, and then we're going to put it all together and put the whole 9 movements together. Now please remember that you're not expected, so don't put any expectation on yourself to remember all of these movements or to even know the movements or practice them perfectly. That's not what Qigong is about. It's about just learning a very set of very clever, intelligent movements, and in time you will embody them, your muscle memory will remember them, and that will only come with your regular practice. So if you're ready, we're going to start doing some warm-ups now. So get yourself in a place, in a position, whether you're sitting down or standing, that we can remember to use the arms. I'm going to move this a bit further away so I don't wipe out my iPad and drink. Okay, so remember these are the warm-ups. I have put all the warm-ups in the 30-day Qigong challenge section. They're individual videos, so by all means go and have a look at those, please do. So let's settle in first. Settle in, check in to see how we're doing. Wu Qi, limitless, boundless, endless. You might notice that we've got a really busy mind. We haven't quite checked in with the body yet. We haven't connected with the body. We're all up in the head. So these next couple of minutes are for us all to sink the mind into the body. Correct our posture if we need to. Soften the joints. Connect to the 3 treasures. Breathe. Don't try too hard with your breathing. Yes, if you can breathe in through your nose down deep into your belly, great. That's still proving to be a little bit of a challenge, then just breathe, but notice your breathing, conscious breathing. Ting, that lovely word ting. Notice, listen with your mind, your sensitivity. Use your senses to notice. Good. When you run away with your thoughts, just remember those thoughts are clouds. Detach yourself from your thoughts. Your thoughts aren't you. Just focus back on your breathing. And just let those clouds move, pass by. Well done. Very good. Okay, so from here we transition gently into our do, our shaking, lightly. Enjoy the shake, loosen. Tilt to the sides and forward. See if you can feel the shake resonate in your cheeks. Excellent, well done. And from here, we're going to transition into the slosh. Slow it down, widen the stance, nice and gently, nice and slowly. Getting that sense of filling one side as you empty the other. Yi Dao, Qi Dao. Where your mind goes, your inner ocean will follow. Breathing freely. Good. And then we're going to transition from the slosh to the first swing. So when you're ready, you can think about it. Know that you're going to move your feet back in for a normal hip width stance. And using your lower dantian as the engine of the movement. Keeping your knees pointing in the direction of your toes. Gently feel the sort of the corkscrew effect that your body is making. Those turns, the twists, the wrapping. Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to transition to the second swing. So slow it down, shift weight, turn the foot out, and you move the foot from the kwa. You open up the leg from the kwa. Nice and slowly, pivoting around your heel so you don't end up doing the splits. Well done. And gently let that come to a standstill. Back into Ruchi. And just notice your body. Notice your breathing. Any sensation. Ting. Wonderful. Good, good, okay. Let's do the Heavenly Archer. So the Heavenly Archer completes our form, and it completes it on several levels. The most important level that I'd like to share with you at this stage is the letting go. So you'll see what I mean by letting go, because I'm going to demonstrate the movement to you now. And as always, I'll then break it down, we'll do it together, and then you'll see what I mean. But that the letting go of what you have unblocked in the previous 8 movements, with all of the movement, all of the stuff that you have managed to dislodge. Doesn't matter how subtle it is, we're talking physically and energetically here. Those stagnant chi and where the inner ocean's been stuck, that this movement allows us to physically and mentally release and let go of it. So the previous movement, as I always like to do, so just observing at this stage, and we're going to do this together. Cow gazes at the moon. I'll do that once more. And then I'll go into the Heavenly Archer. And there it is. And it's a really uplifting movement. So where do we start? First of all, something that you're already familiar with. We rewind back to movement 4 and the bow shape of the spine. We reapply that bow shape. So we've already learnt that. So we can revisit that. So movement 4, remember, is this movement here where we created the bow, the 3 bends of the spine. I also added that if you're having trouble with the 3 bends, you could extend your bow to the back of the knee. So this would happen. So when we're doing the Heavenly Archer, it is like we're holding on to a ball, but we're absorbing the ball, we're cuddling the ball with the whole front of our body, from the knees all the way up and round. Okay, and that also goes for our arms. When we go round the ball, we create this round shape. Let me show you here, this round shape here. So this helps us to open up the channels of the upper body. But there's no strain. I'm not using my shoulders to come up by your ears, just the arm. So let's do that together. So once we've completed the previous movement, the hands, so if we just come down from here now together, the hands float down. We're now ending the previous movement. That's where we're at. And as we scoot forward and the hands start to come in front of the body, in front of the line of my body, I slowly start to create the opposite movement. So I start to create my C shape with my spine. So it's like a counterbalance. My C shape of my spine is being balanced out with my arms and hands going forward. And come out to this point here where your palms are facing you. You've created a shallow C shape and you've got a ball. You should be looking diagonally down at the ground here because of the C shape, the top part of your bend. Good, now just bring that closer to you, so your hands, bring that closer to you, and as you do, straighten up from your C shape but don't lock out. Good, hands go back down, just as if we're finishing the previous movement. Scoot forward, slowly start to create the bow with the body, the 3 bends. Pause for a moment. We don't pause in the actual form, but we're just pausing now to make sure you're in the right position. Palms should be facing ball-like, arc-like, bow-like here in the body, and then come towards you, straighten up and down. And let's do that again. Scoot forward, create the bow, the C shape, the arms too, perfect. Bring them towards you. As you do, the body rises but doesn't lock, and down. Excellent. So that's the first part of the movement. Now I am now going to add a little subtle change to that with your arms. If you look at my arms as I do this now, we'll do this together in just a moment. Just take a look at my arms. I'm going to do it one way. This is first way. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do the first way again. And now I'm going to do it the second way. See if you can notice the difference. I'm going to do the second way once more. So you may have noticed that the first way I just had a straight arm and I was just scooping forwards. The second way I added a gentle spiral that was generated from my wrist, which then creates this little very gentle spiral coming up through my arms into my shoulders. And this act of gentle twisting and untwisting, just like when we do the swings, but we're doing it in the arm, helps to, it's like wringing out a cloth. When it's wet, we get rid of the old, and then when we straighten it, it allows to absorb the new. Get rid of the old, absorb the new. So that gentle twisting action is really important to get into the fascia of the body and into the joints. So let's try this together. So hands down. Fingers point downwards. Now using the back of your wrists, scoot forward and just let your hands go outwards. One's going to go outwards that way and that way. Not too much, but just a little emphasis. They go outwards. Use the back of your wrist. Now here you should feel a gentle spiral coming up through your arms. Now turn your wrist back out, palms in, right back to where we started. That's how subtle it is, but it makes a huge difference. Let's do that again together, using your wrists. Don't overdo it. Again, using your wrists. Once more. Excellent. Well done. So if you're seated and you're doing this, allow the back to your spine to soften and create this gentle bowl shape, this C shape as you do this. Of Of course, your legs won't be able to engage with the movement as I've just suggested, but your spine can. So you can just sink your spine back as your hands go forward. It's that opposite movement that you're doing. Arms forward, spine back to create space. Please don't overdo this spiral. It's not really twisting your arm. It's a very gentle, light twisting of the arm. And remember, we get deeper in Qigong through the repetition rather than going for the one-off, I'm going to get in there. No, that's likely to hurt ourselves. Just gently. And as we do this, it just gently unwinds, unwinds, and unwinds everything that we've been holding on. And that will then eventually travel into the shoulders and to the neck and start to unwind your neck as well. There's a very quick story whilst you're just having a moment with your arms, because I appreciate sometimes it can get in there. A long while back, before the advent of sort of factory machinery took over, there was a chocolate factory, and the factory workers would dip the chocolates on a stick into the bowls of liquid chocolate, and in order for to complete the chocolate stick, they would have to do this movement as I've just shown you, and they would take it out of the chocolate pot, hold it up, and then they would have this perfect stick. But each of the movements, they would have to do this, and they ended up doing it in both hands. And you could do it the other way too. And it wasn't until they started to introduce machines to do that, but you still needed the factory workers to do some parts of it. They started to complain about the repetitive same movement that they got from operating the machinery. Whereas prior to that, when they were doing all of this type of movement with this spiraling movement, there were no complaints whatsoever. So I found that brought a smile to my face, just to remind us that we are human, and we need to move and engage the body in varied movements, not just one repetitive same movement all the time. They call it repetitive strain injury, don't they? So let's come back to Heavenly Archer. So let's do this together. Hands down. Scoop out, soften the wrists, create that bow-like body. Palms turn. As the palms press in, feel like you're pressing through the thick air as the body straightens. It's really important that you get this bit timed correctly, so by the time your hands come sort of 8-10 inches away from your chest, that the body is straightened. Let's do that again. And again. And just once more. Good. Okay. So that's part one. Part two, the hands. We create what we call a sword hand. And the sword hand is where we have the index finger and middle finger. I'll come a bit closer. Together, pointing upwards. And the other hand, the other fingers, sorry, we have the ring finger, little finger, and your thumb connecting to them. Can you see that? Connecting to them, and it creates this circle. I appreciate, again, depending on the mobility of your hands, that might be quite tricky. So do what you can to get 70% way to do this. Just if you can't put your fingers up and they're here, because that's what you can do, that's absolutely fine. But where we're going with this is eventually fingers are pointing upwards, and you create this circle connecting your two fingers and your thumb and your first two fingers pointing upwards. This is what we call the sword hand. Okay, so now we've done it with one hand. Let's do it with the other hand. Not always as easy, but let's try it with the other hand. First two fingers pointing up, thumb connects with the last two fingers. Let's do both. So open, open, and create your sword hands. Open, sword hands. Open, sword hands. This is challenging within itself. Open, sword hands. So the sword hands is a very qigong, very energetic. When I say energetic, I'm talking about qi here, position with the hands. It's about creating a posture with the hands that helps us to let go. It helps us to release what we want to get rid of on an energetic level. So by doing this, we're connecting the meridians through the body. We're stimulating the point that I've mentioned to you before, Lao Gong, in the center of your palm. And this position here is often used in Qigong healing. So if you are healed by a Qigong practitioner, sometimes they would use a sword hand to project out of them. So this is why we use this hand. But what you're doing is you're using it to get rid of out of your body. So it's a really strong posture, this is. So the movement is called Heavenly Archer. And that is because we sort of are replicating the movement of an archer drawing a bow. So now, as the hands come out, let me just show you, and we'll do this together. On one side, I'm going to create my sword hands. So as my hands, palms turn, and I've got this round circular shape that we've just practiced, as soon as my hands come here, and I bring them in, just as I start to bring them in, I create my sword hand. Okay, so from here, I create my sword hand as my hands start to approach and press through this air. The other hand, we're going to do both hands, creates a very loose fist. Nothing tight, no clenched knuckles, no clenched fingers, just a very loose fist. Okay, so let's do this together. Hands down. Use your wrist to create a very gentle circle. Bow the body. Now, it doesn't matter which hand you do, but one hand's a sword hand, the other is a loose fist. Draw them close to your body as you gently rise without locking. Open both hands, down we come. Let's start again. This time we're going to do sword hand with the other side. Other hand, sword hand. Open hands, down. We're going to do this, alternate. Other side now, sword hand. It's very easy to create a tight clenched fist, which we don't want. It's a loose fist. So we're just alternating. One side, sword hand. Other side, sword hand. Good. Couple more times. Wonderful. Relax your arms. Give them a shake out if you need to. Well done. So we've had the bow of the body, the gentle spiraling through your arms into your shoulders and neck, and now we've learned how to create the two positions of the hands, the sword hand and just the loose fist. As we draw those in, if you just observe now, and I'll show you the next part, we separate. So this is like the archer opening up their bow. So this is, so we're going to just imagine a bow here if you wish. And I'm pulling very lightly, without force, I'm pulling the string of the bow back to this shoulder nest, okay, or just below it actually, your hand. So you don't want your shoulder to rise up, you just want to be able to draw that back so it's coming across your chest, okay. Your arm's going to be slightly pointing down, definitely not up. Even if your arm is at the height of your shoulder, you're going to create tension here. So just relax your shoulder a little bit and let your elbow point down a little, and you'll see that I've got still a loose fist here. The other sword hand is the actual bow itself, and that's just being pushed out. So you're opening up the bow, and there is this imaginary sort of arrow, if you like, that we are holding. Okay, so that's the movement. This is what we're going to be doing next. Now you notice that my sword hand has further to travel than my string hand. So my bow sword hand has further to travel. So I have to move that out slightly quicker than I move this one back. This is all about timing. Okay, so let's try this together. Hands down. Use your wrist to circle out in front. Bow the body. Good. Now one hand sword hand, the other hand loose fist. It doesn't matter which. Draw in close to your body. Good. Now we're going to slowly separate them. See how that works for you at the moment. Good. Just hold on to that separation when you reach this point here. Make sure that the sword arm isn't locked, and make sure that this arm is nice and relaxed, the shoulders relaxed, and you haven't clenched your fist. Good. Now just release both hands, open them up, scoot forward, and let's do that the other way now. Other hand sword hand, other hand loose fist. Draw close, separate them. Open up your hands, forward. Other way now, sword hand, loose fist, separate. Now you'll also see that I turn my head and look in the direction that I'm firing the imaginary arrow. That's what I'd like you to do now. So turn your head as you separate your hands. And each time I scoot forward, I create this very shallow C shape with the spine. We're just going to practice this a few more times. Pause when you want. Midway through the movement, if you wish, double check that the arm's not locked, shoulders not high. Good. Well done. And just once more. And let that go. Okay, shake out through your arms. So I know that seemingly there's a lot you're taking on board now, but when it all comes together, then it's just having broken it down and just piecing all those puzzle bits together. So that imaginary firing of the arrow is the release, is the letting go. And we do that with, you may have heard me do a short, sharp exhale to begin with, and I do that through my nose if you can. If you can't do it through your nose, then do it through your mouth, that's fine. But we do that short, sharp exhale as I release, and that's the letting go. And then I complete my exhale as I let my hands release from having fired the arrow, finish off my exhale, and then when I start to draw my next arrow to the other side, that's when I inhale, 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 then I exhale, 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 in, out, out. Let me show you. So just observe for the moment. Start off from the end of the previous movement. So I breathe in and out. Still breathing out, still breathing out. Breathe in. Breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. In, 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 in. Out, 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 out. In. Out. So I hope you can hear through the microphone where you hear that short, sharp exhale from my nose, and then I continue to exhale as my hands reach here. So let's do that together. Nice and slowly. End of the previous movement. Down. Scoot forward. Bow-like. Doesn't matter which side you go. One sword hand. Open up your bow. And now let's start off with that exhale. Other side. Breathe in and out. Now, as you do that short, sharp exhale, it's almost like you're flicking from your hands. It's not only you're getting rid of that stagnant air, but you're getting rid of the stagnant chi just by flicking. So it's almost like you've got water that you're just flicking off your fingers. So from this position here, your sword hand and your loose fist, with your exhale, breathe in and out. In, out. Hard to talk and do the actual breathing, so it's in and out. In and out. Once more. In and out. And there's the heavenly archer. Conscious, there's a lot to take on board there, and that's fine. We've got the rest of the challenge to now practice and embody all of those movements, and it's within the repetition of those movements. Remember, it's not about, you're not doing this challenge to become completely proficient and remember every single detail of every single movement. It's just to get you confident and comfortable and aware of what the movements involved, so therefore in time you can embody them and play with them and practice them, and that's part of the enjoyment of Qigong, is just developing your practice through these movements. So I've got a funny feeling that this live chat is still not our friend. So I shall get on to that again later on today. But I'm conscious that, may I just ask Jane, could you, as I know you're on here, because I can see, could you just send a hello message? And if I don't get it in the next minute or two, I know it's not working. So Jane, if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be lovely. Thank you. So just whilst Jane's tapping that hello message, we're going to, got a feeling it's not working, so we're going to practice just a couple of each of the movements so that we can just get that muscle memory still in tune. So it hasn't come through, so apologies for that. So let's settle in, and we're just going to do just a couple of each movement as a way of remembering them more than anything. So standing in Wu Qi. Remember, just a couple of each. Finish off this session. Discover your Qi. Okay, so compress the pole just a couple of times. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Movement 2, flying hands. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Movement 3. Peacock fans its tail. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Into movement 4. Hang out like a T. Uphold the moon. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathe in. Breathe out. As we breathe out, we sink a little into movement 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. In. Out. Again. In. Out. In. Out. Into movement 6. Diagonal flying. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. Movement 7, rainbow dance. Hands down, shift your weight, widen your stance a little. Tailor make the height of your hand. And breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. In and out. In and out. Back to the center, hands down, back to a hip width stance. Movement 8, cow gazes at the moon, turning your imaginary rectangle. Breathe out, in, out, in, out, in, and out. Back to the center. Now slowly, new movement, Heavenly Archer. Arms down. Scoop forward, C shape with the spine. Sword hand, loose fist. Doesn't matter which side. Breathe in and out. Scoop forward, breathe in and out. Scoop forward, in and out. hands. Come back into the center. As they do, it's good practice just to shift your weight. Remember, it's not a lean, so soften the knee. Come in for a narrow stance as you complete that movement. And let's close. Nice long extended inhale. Exhale. Sink your mind into your lower dantian. Just notice how you feel. That's class. Thank you. So day 23 tomorrow, when we're going to investigate more of the Qi side of things. Now we've learnt the form. We are going to practice the form through and through all the time now, so it will become a lot more familiar to you. That quick version we just did then is something that I used to do when I was practicing. Sometimes I think we can get lost in the sense of when I come to my practice, I need to, as I said right at the beginning of this session, I need to do a full hour and I need to do this and I put all this pressure on myself. Whereas actually what I would do sometimes is just so that I remember the movements, I'd write them up, as I've mentioned again, put them up wherever I was standing, and I would do 2 or 3 of each movement, just like that, like we've just done, to purely remember the movements. That was all it was. It wasn't about adding the layers or adding the breathing or adding this or adding the other. It was just purely a case of compressing the pearl, flying hands, peacock hands tail, up hold the moon. As my dear Cara telling me a delivery has just arrived. And thank you, Cara, sweetheart. Thank you for telling me. So I would do all of them like that, exactly like that, just so that I would sort of see what I remembered, see what I didn't remember, and then when I came to my formal practice, it would be there ready for me. So I hope that really helps, and apologies for the noise there, but hey, this is live, and I look forward thoroughly to day 23, and have a fabulous, fabulous day. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.